Hey everyone, did that work? Yeah. Hi Capricorn. Alright, so anyone new to Opal Oracle, welcome. Anyone returning? Hi. Alright, so Capricorn, you are actually last. You are the 12th sign that I've done. Hold on one second, let me write you down. Daytime on the porch. Capricorn. You, Sagittarius, and Leo are all today. Okay? You being the 12th sign though, there's something about... Hold on. I saw him. I saw that too. Interesting. Wow. Okay. The 12th sign is Pisces. So, ooh, I have something in my hair. What is that? Sorry. Oh. Oh, it's a little pink flower. Pink is about healing, okay? Pisces, the 12th house, is about self-undoing. It's also about sacrificial sort of situations. It's when the age of, when Jesus came was in Pisces. That's why he had long hair and why he sacrificed himself, etc. Okay. It does also have to do with hospitals and prisons. I just heard both of those words. So, hospitals are about healing, right? In the grand scheme. Prisons are about forcing something, like containing something. So, remember that we can view this from, oh fuck, I'm stuck, to this is a wonderful opportunity to self-undo something so that I can heal. But in that, you may have to sacrifice something. Okay? Now, of course, this can be internal. It can be external. I see for a lot of you, well, it has to do with both. Just a second, please. Well, subconsciously, you're really learning what throws you off. Okay. Like there's a pattern. Okay. There's a very deep-rooted pattern that it's like a trifecta. It's a trifecta. Okay. I see that you tried to help somebody, but they ain't even trying to listen. Okay, you tried to fix something. Whoever it is that you're dealing with is not even trying to hear it. Okay? Now, your only major arcana on the board is the Wheel of Fortune in your present position. So wherever it is that you are now, please know that that is where you are supposed to be. Please be gracious and feel blessed that you have the opportunity to be, well, I heard on top, and then I saw you on top of the mountain. But it's also about basic things like, regardless of everything else going on, it's like, all right, do I have my fingers? I have my fingers, I have my toes, I have my job, I have the family that I do have, I have my memories, I have a place to live, you know, I have things that love me, I have blessings in this life. I am very grateful. There's something about that in ways of appreciation that will help you be able to feel more stable in where it is that you are in relation to your independence. You know, wherever you feel like you got to do something by yourself somehow. Now, there is 2 cycles consciously that you know you're about to close out. Okay, or you're working on closing them out. One is emotional. The other is having to do with, well, actually, they both have to do with family, but one of them is specifically emotional. The other is how those emotions cause, well, there's something about, it's interesting. It's like wanting me to express to you that, like, where it is that you're stuck, but then it keeps going back into all it is that you do have. So it shows me that during this time you have a high appreciation for what's going on. Okay, that you have, it's like even everything that's happened, you have some sort of acceptance to, I heard, try to handle or deal with the situation. Subconsciously, whatever you learned about recently too, like found out about, really did throw you off. But that's kind of what it is too, is consciously, like the outside world doesn't know. The facade that you put on for the world doesn't know. And you're trying to figure out what to do with the information that you received. For some of you, it does affect your relationship, particularly for those of you who are married. But in ways of just like the family dynamic, you know, because sometimes that can be like your soul family, your friend family. It doesn't have to be blood related. I mean, most of our situations that cause conflict in a sort have to do with the family. But it's really beautiful that you're the 12th sign in the house of undoing. That means that in some way or another, the family dynamic is undoing itself. Okay, but again, because there's something about that family dynamic that you've really been thinking about. And how it is that whatever it is that you've been growing for a while, because again, Capricorn, especially once you're emotionally invested with someone, because for a Capricorn, technically, like until you're kind of married and there's like this ultimate contract, like this ultimate, well, I heard determination, but it's like carved in fucking stone, right? Like you're mine. You really don't open up emotionally. Okay, show your wounds, things like that. And so when you do get to that position and you have shown your wounds and you have completely exposed all of your emotions, it makes it hard for you to remove yourself from that. You know, because you're like, well, I just went through all this time and work and energy to get to this place. But I want you to remember that you have everything that you need, okay? That you, for those of you who are trying to figure out, like, can I do this by myself? By myself. You're not by yourself, but, like, what you would perceive as without the thing, whatever it is that you've had in your life for a really long time. Even if that's, I mean, to some of you, this is a really, 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 really long time. But it's not necessary for you. It doesn't define you, okay? And whatever it is that you found in life that was good, that helped you open up your emotions, and whatever it is that's happening, however it is that the world doesn't turn, how the wheel is turning, and where you are right now in that, like whatever your position is, that's where you're supposed to be, so that you can learn. Okay? Particularly learn what is no longer worth your time. Now, although right now you may, again, on the outside not tell anybody, and I see on the inside, in the future, you're still not going to tell anybody, but it is really going to hurt. Okay? Like, it really is going to hurt. And how you can help that is, and usually I don't suggest this to most people because it's kind of well, I heard cop out, but it's like, usually I don't suggest, oh, just go to work and don't think about it. But I do sense that because you're an earth sign, you actually work out a lot of what's going on in your psyche, in your mind, when you're at work. Okay, it's like you, for some reason, relax, and it puts you more in a place of being less annoyed and just seeing things a little more lighthearted. Okay, because again, wherever you are on the karmic wheel, well, that's where you're at. I also see that you working on your friendships, you working on the people in your life that actually bring you joy and make you feel, I heard, beautiful and talented, and they're appreciative of all that you do, and they just make you feel good, like I said in May, like have more fun, right? And I get it. 10 of Swords, 3 of Swords, 10 of Pentacles, 10 of Cups, like the Hierophant. This is all so serious, I also see that it's okay for you to, it is safe, you are loved, you are protected. It is safe for you, Capricorn, to expose your heart. You don't have to keep holding on to whatever it is that you've been holding on to your heart, that you know. And subconsciously, you actually really are doing the work of knowing and finding out what keeps you in this loop and what is worth your time. Okay? I know that you want to be really strong and hang on to what it is that you've built the last 10 years, since you were 10, whatever. Of course, there could be a Leo in your family somehow, some way, but it's more about the heart attached to the family. You define yourself through family, Capricorn. So if the family isn't that hot, isn't that great sometimes, well, you're not going to talk about it, but it really affects you, and no longer are you allowed to let that affect you, okay? Particularly if you're dealing with people who are not willing to recognize, that take action, that isn't productive, that isn't fair. Like, they don't think about what, like, I feel like there's people that you're dealing with where, and this could also be people that you dealt with growing up, right? All these family cards, but like, where what was given and received, it may have been enough in a way, but there's something about it where, let's see, they're all going in the past. There's something about it where people have to use their magical abilities, their energy, which is magic, like the way that they communicate, the way that they write, all these things. That it's like there's something about it that is not conducive to you. It throws you off. It throws off your stability, okay? And it's because they don't assess their emotions. Now, of course, this can be your own structures within you, and you being stubborn about it and not wanting to let go. But I see that you will let go and actually assess these things in the future. And although it's, you know, the advice is to continue to work on what it is that you're working on, continue to stay focused on what it is that you want to make, what it is that you want to grow, to keep, again, opening your heart, especially with your friendships, focusing in on those positive relationships that you have with people that make you feel good, okay? But maybe, I mean, that's a lot of advice, but in a way, I know that what you feel like, I feel like in a way for a lot of you, you kind of feel like you have everything that you want. Like, to the outside world, it's kind of like this, right? Like, oh, look what I got. You know, all this stuff. But the internal world is like, these cups are empty. You know? So something, although it looks like what did my ex-boyfriend used to say, Caleb? He's like, the idea of it is amazing, but the reality is fucked. That's what he said when we were, like, about to break up. You know, because I tell him that I love him, but, like, the reality was fucked. I was making excuses for him. You know? Because nobody can do this for anybody else. We can do this for ourselves and get over it. Because I also see that in a way in the future, you realize, and that could be part of what you're learning about too, is that you realize that there's a lie. There's a lie about how much pain is actually going on here. Like someone is not assessing, and you no longer can ignore it through just going to work, okay, through partying. Because even if you try to do all this and this to try to cover up this, well, what happens is, yeah, you get all these cups to the outside world. Look at all my shining cups, but they're all empty. Okay, so in the end, it's not really emotionally fulfilling. And it's kind of shallow. There's something shallow about it. And I heard something unjust about it. I also see in a way that some of your some of the reason why your heart doesn't open up is because you're still emotionally attached to things. So you can't actually discuss yet, have the communication yet about what is actually going on inside, because this is Taurus. It's like, it's so the way that it is, you know. This is the Pope. You think you're going to convince the Pope to wear like Bodhi beads, you know, become, you know, be open-minded to Buddhism? Probably not. You know, they're going to go talk to the crows, even though they believe in St. Francis. But, and I'm not dissing Catholicism or what have you. I'm just saying that, you know, this is a very particular kind of person. And I also see that if you're dealing with that kind of person that's sort of stuck, because even when it's somebody else, it's always you. I'm actually becoming kind of tired of saying that, only because if you understand that, then you would understand that, and I don't need to explain it, right? And there's also something about that too, like what it is that you already know. Why do you have to keep explaining yourself? If you know the truth of the matter is the truth of the matter, what does it matter? It's like, think about it. If someone said, you're a murderer, I didn't mean to point at you. You're a murderer, and you never murdered a thing in your life, well, then you wouldn't be like, no, I'm fucking not, and like defending yourself, you know? But because that doesn't balance it out. That doesn't show balance. That shows that there's a lot of things internally that someone isn't dealing with. Okay, and although the example of what you're dealing with could be more or less extreme than what you're handling, but it is a mirror. Okay, so you can't change the structure of anybody else, but you can, and whoever it is, particularly fiery people, again, people that like have a lot of energy but aren't necessarily giving it to you, well, that's going to change. Okay, you're going to be moving away from that, which is really positive, and actually ending up in a more fulfilling place. Okay, I also see consciously you really do want full fulfillment. Now, we talked about this in the cardinal readings, which you can find in my yearly etc. playlist. But that was part of it, is where you were like marriage. You had this high expectation about family, about life, about the overall what is success. And there's something about your expectation within love, within marriage, and something about it fulfilling you. But you have everything that you need inside of you. Okay, and maybe that's what part of what you need to work on, is recognizing that. Okay. And recognizing that, and I was just telling Leo this, but like, it's brave to talk about this. Okay? It's not weak. That's not weak. I know you're the third decan. I know you're the goat. You're all the way up on the mountain. You can do anything. You're wicked tough. But honey cakes. I've never called anybody honey cakes in my life. What's a honey cake? I want to make one. Does anybody have a recipe for that? Honey cake. That sounds delicious. See, that's the thing, right? I was just talking about some heavy stuff, and then I just said some sort of creative word. It just blurted out of my mouth, and it turned the whole conversation into something else, right? Like calling up your homegirl and being like, instead of boo-hooing about something, like calling up your homegirl and be like, hey, you ever heard of honey cakes? You know? And that goes back to the fun. It's like not making honey cakes because you need it for the PTA meeting, but like honey cakes because, well, honey cakes for honey cakes. You know, honey cakes because it'll be delicious, because you can have a glass of wine and like make this recipe, and then maybe like test it out and see how it works. And if it comes out good, then eat it and enjoy it. And if it doesn't come out good, we'll figure out what was wrong with the recipe. Where do you need to tweak the recipe so that the next time it can be more delicious, and you'll want to share it with other people? Because I think that's what it is with you too, in ways of like, because we're going this cooking analogy, is like you make something, right, and then you feel like, oh, this isn't perfect. It isn't perfect. So I'm not gonna, it isn't perfect. It isn't perfect. So because of that mentality, you don't share it. But that's the thing, it's like your friends, true friends, will always comfort you. Okay? They'll always accept you, even if you're in this space. Okay? But you have to express, when you express this, what did I say in the beginning? Something about compassion. Having compassion for yourself. Okay? Because your inner child also wants you to do that. That's how you'll have more fun. Okay? Very interesting reading, Capricorn. I almost called you Sagittarius. Maybe some of you are on the cusp. Actually, this woman reached out to me and was like, you ever do cusp readings? And I never thought about it before. I just figured you'd watch both of them. But it's an interesting concept. Maybe I'll do that on Truth is Feeling. Which, by the way, I know I mentioned that I was going to do that soon, and I actually made the email and everything. And I set up the YouTube page, but I have to settle first, because Azumi and I are going to go, I guess, live in a tent until in the forest until we find a place. You know, because sometimes life's like that, you know. I've actually told everybody this story, but I think because I've been giving the example and expressing, like, hey, express yourself, but you got to practice what you preach, right? I heard, or you become your mother. Have the same walls, you know. But you'll succeed through that. So this tarot deck actually is the first tarot deck I ever received in my hands. A short recap, I went through a tower moment. I lost like a 20-year relationship. I was separated from it. I had to change homes. And where I was living, I obviously couldn't live there anymore. And my car was too small to live in, and I didn't have enough money saved to set up a new thing, so I had to be in this in-between period. So I traded vehicles with my friend Allie. I lived in her truck in a Walmart parking lot for 3 months, okay? And during that time, I ended up with this tarot deck in my hand. Now, because of that difficult situation, because all the things that I had built and grown over all that time, right? This actually equals to 22. Well, it was really hard, you know. It put me in a tough position, right? Really sad, actually. Probably the lowest point in my life, that experience. But through that, it gave me great enlightenment to where it was that what wasn't working, okay, obviously, and what kind of cycles I was still stuck in, and why, and how to start looking at them in a more proactive way, okay, a more productive way, because ignoring things is why the tower comes, okay. Now, because again of this difficult situation, well, this wonderful gift was granted to me. Okay. I could have just felt stuck, right? Been like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. But no. Well, I'll say yes. In the beginning, I was like, oh, fuck. And then what happened? Yeah, because we got to see, yeah, you stayed with Allie, remember? And you learned how to play with toys. She'd never done that before. She learned a new skill, too. But instead of saying, oh, you know, after the oh fuck was done and I came back to center, even though it fluctuated for a little while, my determination was I want to succeed. I want to be more stable. I know that I can be in charge of my own life. And in that process, even though I had to go through the darkness, I knew that right. Even though I had to go through the darkness, go through that dark night of the soul, if you will, well, I knew that the sun would come out, and the sun comes out tomorrow, okay? Because when you're just trying to hang on to the stress of this kind of energy, no way. Queen of Wands ain't putting up with that shit, even if they are your soulmate, even if you totally, utterly... Hold on a second. I'm going to show you some shit. Because this is what it felt like to me, too. Wow. Even if you totally, utterly think that this was like everything to you. Everything that you could have asked for. But really, let's get real. Deep down, deep down, those, again, the parts that you ain't telling anybody about, well, you knew that it wasn't going to be able to continue, right? Because it really wasn't for your highest good. I was telling somebody else this, but when we start flitting back and forth in our own head about whether something's good for us or not, that's usually an indication that it's not. Now, we must assess before making a decision ultimately why it is that we feel that way, okay? Because a lot of times it can just come from our upbringing, okay? Fear and stuff, like pain, things like that, right? But I want you to keep that, all that positive energy I was talking about in the beginning, you really, really, really being appreciative for where you are, knowing that there is no top and bottom of the wheel, it spins like this, okay? This is just a perception. It's your choice to perceive the situation as you please, okay? And because if it wasn't for that crazy situation and all that pain I had to endure and all that healing that I had to go through and, you know, like all those doors I had to close so that all these other amazing doors can open, okay, we wouldn't be here right now. Think about that. Isn't that wild? You know? And what a beautiful, wonderful blessing that we get to be here with each other. That we get to support one another and understand, like, what's going on. And that nothing's perfect. And learning and growing is awesome. Especially figuring out what doesn't suit us. Because that's so easy to a human. You know? Like, oh, I'm going to stick with this. Especially earth signs. I'm going to stick with it. Why? Why are you going to stick with something? Why are you going to stick with this? You don't have to stick with this. You do not. No way, Jose. You don't have to stick with this. That isn't the just because something has been your structure of your life for X amount of time does not mean that it has to continue to be that way. No, it doesn't. It's all about perception. And really examining your emotions. Like those ones that are empty, like why you don't, the ones that make you feel empty. You can't just ignore them and make them go away, but you can accept them and release them. Okay? Let's choose Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein for you, because this is for your inner child. Okay, Capricorn. Wow. All right, this one's called Me and My Giant. Look at that foot. Look at the little kid. So cute. It says, I have a friend who is a giant. He lives where the tall weeds grow. He's high as a mountain, and wide as a barn, and I only come up to his toe, you know. I only come up to his toe. When the daylight grows dim, I talk with him, way down in the marshy sands. And his ear is too far away to hear, but he still understands. He understands. I know he understands. For we have a code called the Scrap Tap Code. And here's what we do. I scratch his toe. Once means hello. Twice means how are you. 3 means do you like the rain. 4 means don't cry. 5 means I'll scratch you a joke. And 6 times means goodbye, goodbye. 6 times means goodbye. And the 6, that's the lover's card, right? The choice. And he answers me by tapping his toe. Once means hello, friend. 2 taps means it's very nice to feel your scratch again. 3 taps means it's lonely here with my head in the top of the sky. 4 taps means today an eagle smiled as she flew by. Oh. 5 taps means, oops, I just bumped my head against the moon. Your head and your feelings, right? 6 times means sigh. 7 times means bye. 8 times means come back soon, soon, soon. 8 means come back soon. And then I scratch 1,000 times, and he taps a bappity bim, and he laughs so hard he shakes the sky. That means I'm tickling him. You know, sometimes the feelings that we have in ourselves that we don't assess seem like a giant. You know, it seems really big. And you don't know how to, and your feelings seem really big. And what's going on inside of you seems really big in your life. But the thing is like, you just have to learn to communicate it. You know? Because everyone communicates differently. I mean, the twice scratch into the little boy, the little child, was, how are you? Well, the two times to the other one is very nice to feel your scratch again. Like, it's not even answering the question to what the other one said. So there's something really strong about understanding that everyone isn't going to understand you, but the more that you communicate about what it is that you're going through with yourself more honestly, then you'll be able to deal with more people and find more people who do understand you. Okay? And that's that beautiful 12th house undoing. Also, be barefoot. I was walking in the woods. Excuse my feet. Walking up a mountain, actually. I didn't walk up backwards, though. It's pretty rocky up there. All right. I love you. Please take care of yourself.